in their own self-protection. Another way to think about this is we all understand, you some more than I, automated fixes that are technical fixes. Set your virus, updates to update automatically on a Friday night when you're not using your computer, or Saturday night. Well, let's do that. Check your spyware. Make sure you run your scans. Have everything done on some kind of schedule automatically without thinking. We need to think the same way about human behaviors because there's a person who has to do those things. And so, can we create safe habits? I mean, that's what we're talking about. Automatic behaviors are habits. And I will tell you that habits are very hard to develop. And what I'm going to talk about, too, is how we're going to have to break some bad ones, too. And habit strength is an important term that we use in a lot of psychological models. It talks about how the greater the habit strength, first of all, the harder it is to break that habit. But in terms of using technical fixes, you're asking somebody to develop habits that will be very difficult to develop because they just don't want to do it. So I'll talk about that in more detail. So consider what I'm trying to do is to get people to behave automatically the way you get your systems to behave automatically to make everything run smoothly. Okay, so how do we create safe behavior? And this is where we're really studying now with our NSF work and our Microsoft work. I've talked with a lot of people, some here and some other places, and nobody can seem to understand why can't we just put the knowledge out there? Why, they know it. We can teach them. There you go. Why don't you do it? It doesn't work. Knowledge alone does not suffice. Because we're talking about a very complex human problem that isn't as simple as saying, here's the information, use it. This is a very complex problem. It has parallels in other areas of human behavior and in areas where we have some theories. And so what we set out to do is identify what are the factors that are influencing why or why not people are doing these things or want to do these things. And if we can create the model, if we can actually identify the factors, how important each one is in getting that end result, then we can actually target them. And target them with certain appeals. And that's another issue, is you might understand how the system works, how the person works, then it's a whole other set of studies to say, how do I speak to that and change it? That's another area. Okay. So what are those challenges? What are the challenges to eye safety that make it such a big deal that it isn't just, here's a sheet of things, a checklist, go do it? Human nature, that's the answer right there. Human nature is such that that's not how people work. People are very complex. If we look at the nature of this problem in particular, security is a highly technical problem. The skill sets, the knowledge sets that people have to properly enact those behaviors are incredibly complex. Maybe not to you. I study this, and I'm one of the experts. I am the expert in my house. I'm the expert on the floor where I work, and I don't know anything compared to you guys. It's a very complex problem. So, that's number one. Number two, now we're really going to talk about human nature and what makes this challenging. Consider the link between a safety behavior and then the consequence of that behavior or the outcome. There are a lot of theories that we rely on that I'll talk a little bit about later that emphasize the role of behavior linked to consequences. For example, if you were, a rat running a maze would give you a piece of cheese and you'd do it again. People are no different. People seek desirable consequences. They avoid undesirable consequences. However, if you remove in time and experience the behavior that brings about the consequence, they can't make the link. They can't learn. So we couple the fact that it's very distant, and if I say to you, how would you explain to somebody, use your virus software, and they say, well, what will that do? And you'll say, well, you won't get a virus. It's not really the way it is experienced. The way it's experienced is, well, you're telling me to do something that might prevent something that could possibly sort of happen, and I'm not really sure how that's going to hurt me anyway, so why should I do this? And that's really what's happening. And so some of that has to do with the nature of these consequences. First of all, they're in the future. They're down the road. If you don't put somebody's consequence in their face in the moment the behavior happens, you must engage higher order cognitive processing that takes lots of effort. That means somebody's got to want to do it, and most people don't. Imagine how you feel when you plop yourself at home watching a television program at the end of the day and you're very tired. Do you want someone to come tell you why you should use this new product because it's going to make your teeth nice and white and clean? No. So they play a jingle and a song and they make you feel really good about it and say it 100 times so you walk away and you know the brand. That's how people learn. People don't learn by sitting and exerting lots of effort on a subject that they don't care about. Think of a subject you guys took in school and you sat in the class, you said, I'm going to shoot myself, like you feel right now as I'm talking, because who cares about psychology, right? God, dead. This is what this problem is for many people. It is for me. I don't want to know how to do a firewall, thank you. But I do it, okay? I have to do it because I know it's important. The average person doesn't understand why it's important. They can't feel why it's important. So the consequence is way down in the future. It's uncertain. And it's intangible. Because the consequence of enacting safe behavior is absolutely nothing. Okay, so nothing happened. So I don't get an experience. So you have to cognitively create an experience for someone to say, oh, I know this was a good thing. That's a real challenge. That's a real challenge. So imagine, I mean, there are parallels here when we talk about health promotion and behaviors that people take to prevent illness at a later date. I don't know how many of you in the room smoke cigarettes. And some of you might say, oh, I only have a couple here and there. Well, you're not supposed to smoke cigarettes because somewhere down the road, maybe kind of, who knows when, you could possibly have lung cancer. It's the same thing with virus software. It's the same thing with eye safety. It's that you're asking people to change their behavior, to do something that will protect them so that they have no result. All of human behavior in every domain that asks people to do this typically fails. It's very hard to have people do this. Okay. The other challenge that we face to eye safety is competing motives. Internet users are not online because they say, oh, I'm concerned for my privacy and security, I better attend to it. They're online because they want to go shopping. They're online because they're looking for information. They're online because they want to play games. They're online because they don't want to be bothered with all this stuff, but they want to do something else. When people have competing motives, what happens is motivation is a really key component because motivation is something that's going to energize, drive, and direct people's behaviors. I'm online because I want to go play Warcraft, whatever the heck that thing is, too. You know what I'm talking about, the Warcraft world, or maybe you don't know, and I can't remember the exact name, but it was on. I hate to say, it was on South Park the other night, so I saw it. Yes, I watched South Park. So they want to go play games. They want to download music. They want to share files. Kids want music. They don't care. Oh, yeah, my friend's sending me this file. And you say, no. Do you know the source? Do you know it's clean? And the kid's saying, what? It's music. So the idea that there's competing motives means there are some things people want to do online that far surpasses their need to care about their privacy or security. So not only do you have to teach them to deal with something that's a difficult situation, that's hard for them to comprehend, it's also going to go against every habit that they have when they're online. So people have habits. They have their online habits. They're established, just like they have habits everywhere else. We even know that there are people who are addicted to their computer use. We know that there are people who are compulsive computer users. They can't stop. They don't want to stop. They're online. They don't have friends. Well, they do have friends. They're virtual friends. They don't have friends they can touch, feel, and see like this.